Layla will be raised by your sister and me. You need to leave, my husband said coldly. I was shocked and speechless at his sudden declaration of divorce. It was too much that he suddenly invited my sister-in-law Stella into our home and now wants to drive me out. His merciless declaration plunged me into despair. I'm Grace, 33 years old. I live with my husband and our daughter. Our daughter Layla is in the 2nd grade, a thoughtful and sweet 8-year-old who's mature for her age and very family-oriented. My husband is an average office worker, and to put it kindly, his salary isn't great. Thinking about Layla's education and our future retirement fills me with anxiety. After crunching the numbers on future expenses, I concluded that relying solely on my husband's income would be tough. So, when Layla started elementary school, I decided to start working part-time. I got a job at a nearby supermarket, just a 5-minute walk from home, which made it a very convenient workplace. Life was busy with parenting, chores, and work, but it was fulfilling in its own way. Dad, you left your shirt on the floor and put your bag in the room, please. Layla, arms crossed, spoke to her father relaxing on the sofa after returning from work. Kids mimic their parents, don't they? Maybe she's imitating me. She must be at that age where she wants to act grown up. Watching Layla like this brings a smile to my face. Sorry, I'll clean it up right away. My husband playfully complied with our daughter's instructions. Really, you're not a child anymore. Get it together. Layla puffed her cheeks saying this. It's hard to tell who the child is here. While preparing dinner, I said this to my husband and Layla, laughing. Layla, still playing mom, kept her arms crossed. Dad is so sloppy. I have to be the responsible one, she sighed, and gestured in exasperation after saying this. Layla's criticism continued. And you need to do something about that belly. It's embarrassing for me. How can I face my friends with a parent who's a member of the Potbelly Aliens? Hearing this, my husband could only chuckle while rubbing his protruding stomach. I'm not the one to talk, but over the past few years, he's gained more than 10 kilo. In his youth, his slender figure and gentle demeanor attracted many women, and I was one of them. But now, my husband bears little resemblance to his younger self. He's just become a chubby, middle-aged man. After 10 years together, it doesn't bother me much, but I can see why our daughter, at her age, might find it embarrassing. Layla would just nod along and laugh at her little criticisms. Then one day during dinner, my husband's phone rang. Answering the phone at dinner is bad manners. Layla chided him like a mother. Yeah, you're right. Sorry, he apologized. However, his expression instantly brightened when he saw the caller ID. It's from my sister. Sorry, I need to take this. He stood up and brought the phone to his ear. Hey sis, long time no see. How have you been? He seemed happy to talk to her, his eyes shining. The last time I saw Stella was 2 years ago. We visited my husband's family when Layla graduated from kindergarten, and Stella and her husband happened to be there too. We've been married for over 10 years, but I've only met Stella a few times. While my interactions with Stella were rare, my husband kept in regular contact. He's the eldest son, and Stella is the eldest daughter. My husband always adored his sister since they were kids, following her around as his parents once told me. I've always thought it's great that the siblings are close, so it never bothered me. Their phone conversation seemed lively and lasted about 15 minutes. Finally, he ended the call. Returning to his seat, he spoke with a happy expression. My sister is getting a divorce and moving here, he said cheerfully. Is that something to smile about? I wondered, but he continued without noticing my confusion. She's moving here to Boston. Hearing this, I was puzzled. Stella lives in Anchorage while we're in Boston. If she were moving to Seattle, where our parents live, I'd understand. But why Boston? So, she'll be staying with us for a while. I hope that's okay, he said. Staying here isn't living with us? I asked, seeking clarification. Of course, she can't find a place right away, and she's going through a tough time. Layla likes her aunt, right? He turned to Layla. I love Aunt Stella. Layla beamed. Given the circumstances, I couldn't object. The decision was made, and Stella was set to stay with us. A week later, I returned from my part-time job to the sound of laughter inside. Layla, you're doing great. Stella was patting Layla's head in the living room. Stella, long time no see, I greeted her. Grace, finally home, huh? You're late. Despite the long time apart, Stella treated me coldly. I was busy and couldn't leave work early, I replied, slightly annoyed after her reprimand. Layla's hungry, so hurry up with dinner, she demanded. Such audacity for someone staying as a guest. I was frustrated but had to start prepping dinner since I was late. Since that day, Stella's stay at our house began. She talked about her divorce, but her reasons seemed forced and unclear. She listed complaints about her husband not doing household chores and being cold, but it felt like she was stretching the truth. My husband didn't seem concerned and was just happy to live with his sister, not mentioning anything about her future plans. 2 weeks passed since Stella arrived, but she showed no interest in finding a new place or job. She mostly lounged around the house. I ended up preparing meals in between work. The only thing she actively did was take care of Layla, which kept me from complaining. When Layla wasn't home, Stella just watched TV or played on her phone. My frustration grew as this lifestyle continued. One night, after Stella and Layla had gone to bed, I confronted my husband. How long do you plan to let Stella stay? Wasn't she supposed to look for her own place? He responded, Why not just let her live here? Layla's fond of her, and it's helpful, isn't it? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. There's a limit even for one's own sister. I couldn't fathom letting Stella, who neither worked nor did housework, stay indefinitely. It's not helpful at all. It's just stressful. Talk to Stella about moving out, please, I insisted firmly, but my husband looked angry. How can you say something so awful? She's just gone through a divorce and is hurt. I never thought you'd be that kind of person, he retorted. I felt desperate. My husband defended Stella, ignoring my struggles. I felt anger and sadness. Stella seemed unbothered by her behavior, just taking advantage of our silence and laziness. I felt so frustrated I couldn't argue back. Anyway, Stella will stay here for a while, he declared and went to the bedroom. I realized then how attached my husband was to his sister. Could I change the situation? If this continued, the stress might overwhelm me. I got scared thinking about this, but I couldn't think of a solution. I lay in bed, frightened by these thoughts, unable to sleep. A few days later, when I returned from work, my husband and Stella were sitting laughing. Without much thought, I began preparing dinner. Grace, can we talk? My husband called me. I stopped cooking and went to them. Stella sat silently, smirking as I took a seat. My husband said, I found a new house. Suddenly and without context, a new house? I was momentarily stunned, then realized he meant a new place for Stella. I thought my husband was also thinking about Stella's future. Found a new place? That's great, I said to Stella, but she just kept smirking. Confused, I listened as my husband continued, So pack your things soon. I couldn't comprehend and asked, My things? You mean Stella's, right? I asked, shaken. He replied emotionlessly, No mistake. I mean exactly what I said. I'm divorcing you and Layla will be raised by my sister and me. You need to leave. The shock left me speechless. Then Stella said to me, Sorry, I feel bad about this, but it's best for my brother and Layla. I'll take your place, so don't worry and just leave. She said it with a nasty smirk. Turning away from Stella, I faced my husband. What do you mean you want to kick me out and live with Stella? And you say it's for Layla's sake? I was too confused to say anything more. It's just as my sister said. Layla is more attached to her than to you. She'll be happier raised by my sister, my husband said coldly. I couldn't believe my husband thought this way. We had spent over a decade together as a family raising our child. I had worked hard for my husband and daughter without complaining about his meager salary. Feeling like I'd been plunged into the depths of despair, I was consumed by grief. But Stella, indifferent to my sorrow, turned to Layla. Layla, you want to live with me, right? Layla, who had been watching TV and not joining our conversation, looked up. Why? She asked, genuinely puzzled. You like me, don't you? Stella seemed rattled by Layla's unexpected response. Well, I like you, but living together all the time? I don't think I can, Layla said casually, catching Stella off guard. What? Stella sounded surprised and confused. Because right, you just laze around the house all day, make a mess with snacks on the sofa and never clean. It's Mom who cleans every day. Mom cooks for us, and you never say thank you. Stella was speechless at Layla's innocent yet truthful words. Consistency is important in everything we do. If we're lazy now, we won't be able to do things in the future, my teacher says. Without Mom, we won't have delicious meals, and the house will get dirty, right? I don't want to live with a lazy person. Layla continued unabashed. A lazy person? Stella, taken aback by such frank criticism, sounded foolish. My husband, seeing Stella's confusion, tried to intervene. Layla, you love Dad, right? You want to live with me? He asked, clearly unsettled. I guess I don't like living with a chubby alien and a lazy alien, she said with an innocent expression. Besides, I love Mom the most, so I want to live with her. Hearing Layla's words, I felt a warmth in my heart. Layla, known for her intelligence and kindness at school and among parents, saw right through Stella's indulgence and my husband's irrationality. She cleverly cornered Stella and my husband. I was both moved and exhilarated. They looked at each other, panicking. Layla's strategy wasn't over yet. Grandpa agrees with me, right? Suddenly, Layla said this while looking at the computer. What? My husband exclaimed in surprise. Stella and I were equally stunned by this unexpected turn. Yes, I think that's best for Layla, a voice came from the computer. I noticed that Layla had been fiddling with the computer earlier. Layla had been connected to father-in-law Noah via video call. The whole conversation was heard by Noah. Realizing this, my husband and Stella started panicking more. Dad! My husband stood up. What are you two thinking? Noah's voice, filled with evident anger, was like bubbling magma. Stella and my husband seemed to feel the heat of his fury. Dad! It's not like that, I mean, Stella stammered, unable to continue. Noah spoke again. So you ran away after dumping your debts on someone else? Stella, accused, fell silent awkwardly. Dad, what are you talking about? The word debts surprised my husband as well. Noah explained the situation. After her marriage, Stella had quit her job and become a housewife, but she hardly did any household work and spent her time out having fun. She started splurging on luxury brands and soon ran out of her allowance. Desperate for money to fund her lifestyle, she resorted to borrowing. Stella's husband was too busy with work to notice her misdemeanors. When the debts made life difficult, Stella fabricated reasons for a divorce, dumped the debts on her husband, and came to our house. She had fled, playing the victim. She even intended to have the divorce court fees paid for her. Stella's husband contacted Noah, revealing everything. My husband was unaware of these facts. My sister, what's this about a debt? That's nothing like what you told me. I helped you thinking you were pitiable and needed money for the divorce court. What are we going to do now? My husband turned on Stella despite his prior help. I was astounded by their irresponsibility. Enough of this. Noah's anger erupted at their selfishness. I'm coming there. Be ready, he declared. And the call ended. My husband and Stella looked pale with fear. What do we do now? Dad's coming and probably my husband too. Stella sought help from my husband. There's nothing I can do. Dad's going to kill me. They were tearful and panicked at Noah's announcement. Hey, Grace, help us too. To my surprise, my husband asked for my help. I had no love left for him. How pathetic to seek help from someone you tried to discard. Enjoy living with your beloved sister, the lazy person, and the pot-bellied man. I looked down on them, triumphant. Suddenly, when I looked at Layla, I saw that she was smiling innocently. Even in the middle of a terrible scene, Layla, my little hero who had defeated the monsters tormenting me, smiled innocently amidst the chaos. Fearing Noah's arrival, my husband and Stella soon fled, but they were caught by Noah and Stella's husband a few days later and severely reprimanded. As my husband initially wished, we divorced. He continually apologized and begged to cancel the divorce, but I firmly refused. My ex-husband, now living a lonely life, and Stella, also divorced, didn't receive the divorce court fees and had to return home, working tirelessly to repay her debts. After the divorce, I started working full-time at a design company run by an acquaintance. I had worked at a design company before marriage, and my former boss, now independent, hired me. Returning to office work was enjoyable, and with friendly colleagues, I was making the most of each day. As a single mother, I didn't struggle financially thanks to the child support from my ex-husband. Layla, already mature now, helped me more with the chores like cooking and laundry as she entered higher grades in elementary school. Intelligent and kind, she's become a leader in her class and is straightforward, which seems to intimidate some boys. Hearing this, I smiled wryly, feeling motivated to be more like her. I have to stay strong for Layla, but perhaps she's the one protecting me. Determined not to be called a hopeless person by Layla, I looked up at the blue sky, ready for another day at work.